Right guys, so I thought I'd do a progress video about this build, but of course you won't see it until the final reveal. So the first problem I've had is with the fenders and the floor, well not the floor for the cab, just the fenders. This part was loose in the bag, and so I automatically thought that this was the correct part, and of course it wasn't fitting. And after about 10 minutes of trying to get this part to fit and not quite understanding why it wasn't, I decided to go on the internet to see if anybody else had built this K2 ambulance. And fortunately, although I couldn't find any videos, there was somebody who had took some stills on a forum, and immediately I saw that I needed this part here. I'd actually assumed the wrong part. There were quite a few pieces that were loose in the bag, so yeah, but at least I'd worked out which one was the right one. So the chassis is glued, the fenders are glued as well, so I can start looking at putting the suspension on. Again, one of the parts is loose in the bag, but fortunately 3 of the others have stayed on the sprue, so I know exactly what number that one is. So I shall crack on and get those added. So a bit more progress. We've got the rear axle on, we've got the drive shaft on, and we've got the front axle on. The exhaust is also in there as well. The position of the exhaust isn't too clear on the instructions, so I had to look at some steps ahead in order to try and work out where that went. I'm hoping I've got that in the right place. The rear axle and drive shaft, the drive shaft, because it was just a straight piece of plastic, was tending to it's catching on the exhaust at the back there. I don't know whether you can see that. So what I did was I bent the drive shaft a bit in order to get at a better angle to go to the rear axle. So that's all done there. I'm going to leave the mud flaps off for the moment, because I think they're going to be prone to breaking off, and what I'll do is I'll probably put them on towards the end of the build. So the next stage is to put the cab together and the rear section at the back of the truck. I may have to do these as sub-assemblies in order to get stuff painted, although the back of the truck is going to be closed up, so I haven't got to worry too much about painting the interior of that. We shall see. So I'll catch you in a bit. Okay guys, so a bit more of an update. As you can see, I've added the partition between the rear of the truck and the cab, and then after I'd done that, I tried to make sure that it's set 90 degrees to the back there. After I'd done that, I then started building the actual rear. I wanted to use the roof as the template, if you like, to put this together rather than the body. I felt that the roof gave me a better fit, and hopefully again it will make everything square so that it'll fit nicely. And I have tried test fitting it. Let me just place it on there, and there you are, you got something like that. Obviously that's just plonked on at the moment. I need to square it up before I glue it properly, but I'm going to leave that off for the moment, because what I want to do is next is I want to do the hood, the bonnet, and I'll have that as a separate sub-assembly as well. And then I want to start looking at doing the interior of the truck, getting that painted perhaps and things like that, so then I can button it up and we can look at putting the rest of the truck together. Right, so we're on to the next stage. As you can see, I've got the bonnet sorted. However, I don't know what's going on guys, but the grille, you can see the top of it there is not flush with the bonnet. It's there's a step there. Now it's fitted practically as best I can at the bottom there. So what I need to do is I need to reprofile that to bring it down to the level of the bonnet. The Airfix instructions were a bit ambiguous with the side panels on this engine. It looked as if they were supposed to be flush at either end, at the back of the bonnet and at the front where the grille sits in, but they were longer than that. So what I had to do was test fit the cab front to try and get them to sit in the right location. So yeah, what I'm going to do is try and reprofile that grille top so that we can get it flush with the bonnet. So that's the next thing to do. Okay guys, so I hope this is focusing, but as you can see I've managed to reprofile the front there, so now it's flush with the bonnet, looking much better. It's the thing with modelling, isn't it? It's like you just want to sit down and put a model together, and then when you come across issues, do you just leave them as they are, and just get on and build the kit, or do you try and fix them? I was kind of toying with the idea of just leaving it, but I suppose it was an easy fix in the end, so I'm glad I did it. Right, let's crack on with the rest of the build. Okay guys, I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with this because of the reprofiling of the grille on the front of the engine. I then looked at photos of the actual vehicle that was in the film and noticed that there was this, can I point it out, this like window here. So I've put that in. But there was a similar window over this side, but it's in two halves, so this top half's open and this bottom half is just similar to this. So what I intend to do is to take this out, because it isn't really shown like that in the film, it's far too thick, and have a bottom section like this, and then as I say the top half open. So that will be the next thing to do. Okay, so I cut that mid section of the frame out, and then I've put the bottom half of what will be the window. Unfortunately I measured it to where the plastic strip was in the middle. I should have measured the window a bit further, but not to worry, it's supposed to be a bit indicative, to be honest. So the other half will be hinged and open. What I'll do is I'll put some acetate at the back of these to give an impression of the glass for the vehicle. So this is how she's looking now. As you can see, I've reprofiled the front, so it's looking much better and flush with the bonnet. The hinge section of the window is in the frame there. So I've added the spare wheel. Goes behind the driver's seat, gear sticks in, and the handbrake is also in as well. So I think this is now ready for an undercoat. What I want to do is get the cab painted up so that I can then add the rear body section and the canopy over the top, and then we can crack on and get some paint on it. So next stage, you should see the interior colour on this. I'm going to be using Vallejo's 977 Desert Yellow for this build. I'm hoping that the black undercoat that I'm going to put on this as a primer will darken the colour a bit, and obviously with some weathering afterwards we can get a bit of a deeper kind of desert effect, rather than the colour of the paint, which I think is a bit pale. We shall see. Okay guys, so I've kind of jumped ahead a bit. As you can see, I used black primer, which is Games Workshop's Chaos Black. It's my go-to black primer from a rattle can. In fact, it's the one I use most. I used to use Halford's car primer, the grey that they did, but the Halford stores keep closing down near me, and they get further and further away, so I don't often get a can of that. I've added the desert yellow to this. There's still one or two places that need a bit of a touch up with the paint. I've got to paint the seat khaki and the cushion on the other side khaki as well. What I may do then is add the acetate or wherever to the windows, so that I can then button this up. I've got to add the steering wheel as well, obviously. I'll just get the back piece so you can see how it's looking almost complete. So there you go. There's the rear cab on and the roof. So looking much better, and I've got to, as I say, once I've done the interior, I can glue this on, and I can glue the back doors on, and then we can look at putting a gloss coat on and start doing the decals. But I really need to get the interior finished before before I do all that. Okay guys, so a bit more of an update. The interior is painted, the rear cabin is now glued to the body of the vehicle. The doors have been added now as well, and I've remembered to add the mud flaps. So the next stage is to get the mud flaps painted, and then we can look at I've got to do some tidying up on the paintwork of the grille, but once I've done that, we can look to getting a gloss coat on this, and we can start putting decals on it. I'm not sure whether I showed you the base for this. I'll show you where it is at the moment. So this is the base. It looks like a bit of chocolate cake at the moment, doesn't it? And basically it's going to be sat something like that. Now there was a program, what was it called? Something like Hollywood Science or something, and it was the guy who did the scrap heap challenge. Him and another chap, they were testing, I think what they do is they test things that happen in Hollywood, and one of the things that they tested was from this film whether they could actually crank the 4-ton ambulance up a dune. And so what they did was they got a Morris Minor and they got the crank handle, and they started cranking it, and sure enough it went backwards. Then in the film there's a suggestion that you have to take the spark plugs out because it's less resistance. So they took the spark plugs out of the Morris Minor engine. Sure enough, it was quicker to move it. And then they put the Morris Minor on the hill and tried exactly the same thing, and they managed to get it to move up the hill backwards. So they basically tested the theory that was portrayed in the film, and it worked. The other thing that they pointed out was sand finds its own gradient. So what they did was they got a tub of salt basically, and they poured it, and it formed the cone, but the angle that the cone formed was always the same. So although the cone got higher, the actual angle remained the same. So again, when it was being demonstrated in the film, it actually was reasonable to suspect that it would actually go up this dune at an angle, I think it was 32 degrees or something. So now when I initially did the base, it was more like 45 degrees. It was a bit too much. So I've chopped it down a bit, and obviously I've got to add sand to this, so the angle will increase a bit, but hopefully it will work. Right, I'll catch you with a bit more of an update in a bit. So things have moved on with the build. Once I was happy with the paint coverage, I put clear floor varnish on. I just brushed that on, and then once that was dry, I was able to put the decals on. I used the Microset and Microsol to try and get them to adhere to some of the contours, especially this decal on the door. Now this is a departure from the actual Airfix kit, because in the kit instructions, I'll just show you, you can see that there are 2 decals on the door, but when I looked at the film footage, there was just one large decal on the back door, and all I did was there's supposed to be a decal on the front of the roof here. I used that one and put that in that place there. So they're all set, and I'm leaving them overnight to cure and whatever. The base, that's basically had polyfiller brushed onto it, and I brushed it so that we would get something like wind weathering on the dune itself. And once that was dry, I painted on the Vallejo Desert Yellow, which is 977, and then I just added a bit of once it was dry, added the Seraphim Sepia, and I'm going to leave it at that. I think it has a nice effect. So we're almost there. I've got to weather the vehicle a bit, but I need to seal the decals in first with future floor polish.